Now you've got the hottest country in the world. We're right now riding the hottest country. We all, and you can all be proud of it. We're in the hottest country. This is the hottest country in the world. There's nobody close. Made hotter by some great pilots and great machines that nobody else has. Those great, big, beautiful machines, they rode those machines right into the toughest territory, and nobody knew what the hell happened. And then they hit their targets perfectly, and it was complete and total obliteration. And that's why that war ended, Steve. They told me that's why the war ended. The war ended when they saw that, it was over. And we're very proud of it. But we have the hottest country in the world right now, from a country that was close to dead. And if I didn't win, if you would have had the other person win, we all know who she is, whether it was she or Biden, they're the same. He may have been more competent than her, and that's hard to believe, right? But if you had that ideology in, I don't believe you would have had a country anymore. I think you would have had a country that was broken up. But we had a dead country. Now we have the hottest country in the world, and everybody knows it, and everybody said it. Mr. Vice President, do you have anything to say?
Well, thank you, Mr. President. I just want to say that I'm very proud of the whole team. I think everybody has worked together. You see Pete and Marco and Steve working on some of the diplomacy, Christy and Pam working on the border. We just have a really, really solid team, and we've done a lot of good work. And in particular, I want to congratulate the White House staff led by the President on getting the One Big Beautiful Bill passed. Yeah. I was personally skeptical, sir. I never told you this, but I was skeptical we'd be able to get that thing done by July 4th. We did it because we worked together and we worked very well. So it's an honor to be a part of it, but I'm really proud of you guys for doing a great job.
The beautiful thing about it, it had something for everyone.
That's right.
Most people said it had to be broken into 7 bills. It's so big. The problem was that some of those 7 have nothing for anyone, but they had to be done for the country. You know, sometimes you have to do things for the country that aren't necessarily popular. We had a couple of them, and that wouldn't have worked. So the One Big Beautiful Bill, many people said it could never be approved. Too big, too everything. There's too much. But it had something very big and very important for everyone, and it's great for the country. And remember, the Democrats have come up with a false narrative, you know, just whatever. It's just a line that they send to everybody and that they print. I think in the case of this, it's death, death. Everyone's going to die. I heard that. Everyone's going to, just the opposite. Everyone's going to live. What we're doing is saving our country and making it much bigger, better, and stronger than it ever was. I'd like to ask, Marco's been doing such a great job. Do you have anything to say?
Well, it's just going through a list here, Mr. President, and I think the Vice President's pointed out to the great team you have, and all these achievements that have happened domestically. But you think about it, under your leadership, we prevented and ended a war between India and Pakistan. NATO's now at 5% for the first time ever, the highest numbers ever. A peace deal between the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda. A 12-day war that ended with an American operation that we're the only country in the world that could have done. Hopefully, pretty soon, a peace deal between Azerbaijan and Armenia. The entire Middle East and the infrastructure of it has the potential now to change because of Syria and Lebanon, and it hasn't even been 6 months.
Sure.
It hasn't even been 6 months, so it's a straight testament to your leadership in this thing.
Well, thank you very much, and you've done a fantastic job. Could I just ask Linda, she's involved in so much, she's so talented and so good, and she's working on a couple of little things like Harvard, who was given $5.5 billion over a short period of time. We caught him on that one, that's crazy, but you're working on so much, you want to bring education back to the States. How are you doing?
Well, absolutely, and thank you for the opportunity. I think on the Big Beautiful Bill, what we saw, you know, was school choice. It's finally on a national basis at the state level, but there are opportunities now for scholarships more and more often for kids who are in schools. It's going to be a big turnaround. I think one of the biggest accomplishments we had over the past week was the University of Pennsylvania with the Title IX ruling that Leah Thomas was stripped of her title. Riley Gaines and Paula Scanlon and other women who have stood, you know, so strong against men and women's sports. And when you put out the, you know, the executive order, I mean, that just solidified and gave them the opportunity. So those are a couple of really, really big wins, and thank you for that opportunity.
And how are you doing with Columbia and Harvard?
We're negotiating hard. I think we're getting close to having that happen. It's not wrapped up as fast as I wanted to, but we're getting there.
Okay, good. And you've done a fantastic job. Thank you very much.
It's been a good team.
Yep,
A lot of team.
you have a great team.
Around this table, a lot of people who help with that.
That's right. Thank you very much. Maybe just in closing, you know, we spent a lot of time, effort, very little money on this room. This is called the Cabinet Room. It's been here for a long time. And it had some pictures that were not many of them and not very good ones. And I actually spent time in the vaults. The vaults are where we have a lot of great pictures and artwork. And I picked it all myself. I'm very proud of it. That's Andrew Jackson, the great Andrew Jackson. That's a gentleman named, and we call him President Polk. He was sort of a real estate guy. He was, people don't realize he was he was a one-termer, but he was a very good president. But, and I'm not sure I should be doing this, he actually gave us the state of California. He was the one. He was the one that helped it out. So I'm not sure, maybe he won't be there for long. But if you notice, the frame is the exact same size almost as the other one is Andrew Jackson. So that was a part of the reason too, I have to be honest. But Polk is was actually a very good president who's got the same frame that I needed, okay? And up here you have the original George Washington right behind the light. And then you have Dwight Eisenhower, who was a very underrated president, built the interstate system, and he was the toughest president, I guess, until we came along. But I don't mind giving up that crown, because I don't want to be too tough on it, but we want to be humane. But he was the toughest president on immigration. He was very strong at the borders, very, very strong. And sometimes you can be too strong. He was strong on the borders, and during a certain period of time, they were so strong that almost every farmer in California went bankrupt. And we have to remember that. We have to work together. We have to remember that. But he was a very good president and a very good general and a very good president. And I thought he deserved a position somewhere on this floor. And then you have, this is very exciting to me, he was not a Republican, to put it mildly, but he was, you know, he was a four-termer. He was Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And if you notice, there were a lot of ramps outside. We have ramp, people say it's an unusual place for a ramp. It was because of him. He was wheelchair-bound, but he was an amazing man. It's an amazing portrait. And I was in the vaults and looking at things. I said, what's that? And we have some great curators here. We have 6 curators at the White House. They have 2 for paintings, they have them for furniture, they have them for different things. I guess cost is no object. Okay, cost is, maybe I'd have 1, but that's all right. But we have 6, and they're very talented, though. And he said, that's a picture of FDR. I said, really? Let me see it. They took off the wrappings, very well preserved. And I said, that's the picture they've been looking for years. That was the picture of Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And I said, oh, wow. And likewise, that fit, see frame-wise, it just doesn't work. It doesn't work if you have, I want to be nice, but it doesn't work if you have a big frame, a little frame, and but it's like perfection. I'm a perfectionist. The mirror was down in the vaults also. I said, where is this from? And it's a very old, very storied mirror, beautiful. We put that up. And then over there is Honest Abe Lincoln. And that picture was in his bedroom. And we thought that this would be a very important place because this is where wars are ended. I'm not going to say wars are declared. I'm going to say wars are ended, okay? We'll be positive. And that's the picture of Abe Lincoln from his bedroom, sat in the bedroom for many, many years. That was his favorite picture of himself. And the Lincoln bedroom's very famous. You remember when Bill Clinton had it and he rented it out to people. Okay? We don't do that. But it's an incredible room. And we took that picture from his bedroom. That's Abe Lincoln. And then over here you have John Adams, and it's they were the first occupants of the White House, 1800. And John Quincy Adams, Mrs. Adams, they were the first occupants. So we have them looking at each other, and in between their stare is Abraham Lincoln trying to make peace. And that picture was in a room that I have that was not important, like the cabinet. I gave it up. I said, I have to give it up because that's one of the greatest pictures in the White House. The White House is tremendous art. And the Oval Office, when we're there, we'll go over that. That's really been something. Then we got the drapes, so we got the whole thing. We got new drapes. We got new, wasn't a big expense, very small. And we took some of the Chinaware and silverware and trophy-ware, they call it, from the vaults, and we had it cleaned up. Hadn't been shined up in 100 years. Some of this has sat in the vaults for over 100 years. Amazing. Over 100 years. Many of the pictures that were put up in the Oval Office, as an example, those two as an example. So he was president. They moved in 1800, and he won the election, I believe, in November of 1800, John Quincy Adams. And we thought that would be, he was considered to be a good president, and he was the first occupant of the White House, so it sort of made sense. And I love the frame of those pictures. Look at those frames, you know? I'm a frame person. Sometimes I like frames more than I like the pictures. And we have the flags of the Marines, and Space Force now has its own flag. I'm very proud of Space Force, but the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Space Force, the whole thing. And Coast Guard is right there. You never forget the Coast Guard. They do a great job. So we have the flags throughout the office. And it's really become quite a beautiful place. I don't want to tell this, Marco pointed it out. I was going to leave the clock. So as president, you have the power. If I go into the State Department or Department of Commerce or Treasury, if I see anything that I like, I'm allowed to take it. Do you believe this? So I'm in Marco's, I see this gorgeous clock, grandfather clock, and there it is. I said, Marco. He didn't know about it. I had to read him the rule and regulation. I said, Marco, I love this clock. Look at it. It's beautiful. He said, what clock? I said, the clock that's in the other room is incredible, and nobody gets to see it there. Marco, I tried to talk him into it first, and it sort of worked, and then I had to use a little more. I said, I'd love to take that clock out and put it in the cabinet room. He said, no, are you serious? I said, Marco, I have the right to do it, Marco. And he said, all right, what the hell? So that's his contribution to the cabinet room. But it's, by the way, it's an incredible clock. And, you know, it's an important room. So you may see it again. Maybe we'll move it back sometime. Anyway, so that's pretty much it. But it really is great. Here we put out, you know, these lamps have been very important, actually. Whether people love them or not, but if you see pictures like Pearl Harbor and Tora Tora Tora, you see movies about the White House and where wars are being discussed, oftentimes they'll show those lamps or something like those lamps, something that looks like them, probably not the reals, because I don't think they were allowed to. This is a very important room. This is a sacred room, and I don't think they made movies from here. You never know what they do. But they were missing medallions. See the medallions on top? They had a chain going into the ceiling. And I said, you can't do that. You have to have a medallion. They said, what's a medallion? I said, I'll show you. And we got some beautiful medallions. And you see them. They were put up there. Makes the lamps look better. So we did these changes. And, you know, when you think of it, the cost was almost nothing. We also painted the room a nice color, beige color. And it's been really something. The only question is, will I gold leaf the corners? You could maybe tell me, my cabinet could take a vote. You see the top line moldings, and the only question is, do you gold leaf it? Because you can't paint it. If you paint it, it won't look good, because they've never found a paint that looks like gold. You see that in the Oval Office. They've tried for years and years. Somebody could become very wealthy.
Japan, a region bristling with geopolitical tension. The drills include live fire exercises, anti-submarine operations, air defense, and simulated amphibious landings. Warships prowled the waves, while jets executed low-altitude formation strikes. Beijing and Moscow say the drills are part of the annual cooperation